Hello everyone, Jonathan Pulley here with West Coast Weather. Today is December 31st, New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. It is almost 2025, so let's close it out with the last forecast of the year. Looking at things right now, we're looking at the trough and ridge positions on the European model. Blue are troughs, generally stormy weather. Red and the yellows are high pressure ridges. And where the high pressure kind of goes up and then down, and that's where we get the calmer periods of weather, and it tends to bring fog during the winter times. Now, if we play this out, you can see right now, this evening, we have a weak trough, a little shortwave trough that's going to be moving into the Pacific Northwest later this, starting to actually bring precipitation into the coastlines right now, bringing in some light to moderate rain, and possibly even some snow to the higher hilltops, generally around 500 feet or greater. Might bring some snowflakes as temperatures drop into the 30s later this evening into tonight. Generally, it shouldn't be impactful at all. Play this through. Generally, this trough moves through a very weak ridge, tries to build in over the west coast, mainly keeping California a bit drier. But there's going to be some precipitation moving into the area around Thursday before a slightly stronger system moves in on Friday. But generally, it just brings some blustery winds and some rain to the Pacific Northwest and all the way down to California as well. Then another weak system moves in later Saturday, and the Sunday brings some light precipitation to the area once again as well. Then the train of weak storm systems kind of dies off as this large ridge of high pressure builds. And look at this. This is a very significant ridge of high pressure for this time of the year. And you can see that as this air kind of goes up and around, and if I can actually switch to the wind speed and direction at this height, you can see how the winds the storm system over the Gulf of Alaska kind of goes up, way up north into Alaska and down. Once this air starts coming down out of Alaska and the Yukon, northern territories of Canada, it's going to sink down and bring some very cold air to parts of the eastern US. And I want to show you guys here just for a second how this goes. You can see that this ridge built in, but then watch as this trough digs down to the east, and this brings that cold air over into the continental eastern United States. And then this ridge continues to build in as we go through later in the January, continuing to bring colder air down and keeping us mostly dry and out of the active weather for at least a week or two late as we go into early January. Now moving over to the European model, precipitation type in inches. This is total precipitation over the last 6 hours. Here's British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, California. If we play this through, you can see the light rain and light to moderate rain and some moderate snowfall coming into the area tonight, and actually moving into the area right as this video is being recorded around 5 to 6 p.m. You can see that this precipitation moves inland, even brings some light snow to parts of eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. Not going to be really impactful at all, maybe an inch or two at most out in those places, but most areas will get less than an inch. Then precipitation kind of continues as a weak atmospheric river feature. It kind of moves into northern California and southwestern Oregon as we go through tomorrow, Wednesday, New Year's 2025, opening up a bit drippy for some areas, but mainly should be dry for a lot of western Washington and places out east. Before another very weak system kind of brings another impulse of moisture in early on Thursday. Dry out for a couple hours before the more intense system with a bit more rain involved with it brings more rain later on Thursday, continuing all the way into Friday as this low pressure system around an 998 millibar low brings some breezy conditions to parts of the coastlines, maybe the Willamette Valley and parts of the Puget Sound as well. Nothing impactful though. Then rain transitions to showers early on Saturday before we get very little bit of a break on Saturday before yet another frontal system moves and bring more widespread rain all the way up from Vancouver Island down to Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, and then bring some more precipitation out east. And then one last very weak system dives into southwestern Oregon, northern California later on Sunday evening and the Monday morning before we fully dry out for at least a few days next week as that ridge of high pressure builds. And we're gonna have to watch to see if some systems try to clip the area from the north. They can sometimes sneak under that ridge and kind of bring a little bit of light precipitation to parts of BC and western Washington. So we'll watch that as we go. like its whole precipitation through the weekend with the multitude of weak weather systems that will be moving through. Generally some decent precipitation totals for parts of southwestern Washington, the Cascades of Oregon, Washington, the coastal areas of Oregon, Washington, and Northern California as well, with anywhere from like a 1 to 4 inches precipitation for the Cascades of Washington and Oregon and the coastal areas and the coastal ranges. Even some precipitation goes up towards 4 to 6, 7 inches down there in some of the coastal mountains of Northern California and southwestern Oregon as well. So definitely a lot of coastal areas will be getting plenty of rain, but generally this is still beneficial rain, also bringing plenty of snow to parts of the Cascades, which I'll show you later as well. Looking at 10-meter wind gusts, this is surface wind gusts in miles per hour. You can see these systems kind of bring some breezy winds, but really nothing out of the ordinary. That low pressure system brings maybe some gusts up towards 40, 50 miles per hour for the Oregon coastline, but generally only blustery winds for inland locations. Seattle maybe gets some gusts 20, 30 miles per hour. Really nothing exciting, really showing up, and then that ridge of high pressure builds and bring generally all the winds to a stop. Then taking a closer look at things, this is precipitation. This is composite reflectivity and precipitation type in inches. If we play this out, you can see blue is snow, green and yellows and reds are rain. Brighter colors up towards red and oranges are stronger, heavier rain. You can see some stronger cells with this weak frontal system that's dying off. You can see spreading over the region. I'm recording this video right around 5 p.m. and you can see starting to make its way into the coastline, Willamette Valley of Oregon, before it starts making its way up north. But look at this blue. It's starting to encroach on parts of southwestern Washington, actually some of the lowlands as well. Look at it, even brings some snow to Olympia and Tacoma actually later this evening. I don't really think that's going to happen except for elevations up around 500 feet or greater and some snowflakes mixing in. Any accumulation will be light and very quick to melt off by the next day, but showing that we are in winter right now and we can start getting wintry precipitation type if we get the correct setups as we may tonight for some areas. But generally, just light precipitation, then light to moderate snowfall goes in the eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. Some of the Spokane area will also get some snow, maybe continuing all the way through Wednesday morning. So maybe a nice little white dusting for a lot of areas as we go into the new year. That will be very pretty out there out east. Then light precipitation continues over parts of Oregon, and then some light precipitation comes back into Washington later Wednesday into Thursday morning. Then more precipitation as a weak atmospheric river moves into Oregon on Thursday, bringing some widespread precipitation, eventually bringing in the western Washington. Now looking at daily 2-meter temperatures, minimum temperatures over the next couple of days, you can see over the next couple of nights, we're going to start getting into the middle, the upper 30s, maybe even some low 30s for closer to the valleys. Then freezing temperatures in the 20s and low 30s out in the eastern Washington, Oregon mountains in the teens and 20s as well. But this will also bring beneficial snowfall as well, which I'll show you here in a moment. And then we can play this out. Generally, temperatures start to warm up as we go through the week, and then the next week, they may start cooling down again as that ridge of high pressure kind of suppresses the colder air towards the surface and creates an inversion. That may also lead to some fog early next week as well under that ridge of high pressure. Looking at the total snowfall with all these weak systems, generally only maybe an inch or less of snowfall for the Spokane area, most of eastern Washington and eastern Oregon as well. But still will look pretty tomorrow morning. Generally, like maybe a couple feet of snowfall for some of the higher terrain of the Cascades as well. Some of those higher peaks even approaching maybe 3 to 4 feet of snow. Some snow in the passes as well. There's been some wintry driving conditions the last couple of days up there, but just keep an eye out on the forecast. Generally, it shouldn't be too impactful to passes and should be able to get snow plowed right out of the way pretty quickly. This is looking at all 50 ensemble members of the European Mall. Basically, all these malls are run slightly differently than the initial conditions. That we change the conditions of the initial atmosphere slightly in the model, kind of the get an average and to see if we change, if our data is a little wrong at the beginning, we can kind of change it up and to see what would happen if it wasn't a certain way. You can see generally this is all 50 ensemble members for 2-meter temperatures in Fahrenheit. It's kind of complicated, but generally down here you can see the mean, the average of all 50 50 of these throughout the days, and you can see it generally. The high and low temperatures will generally be in the 30s and then up into the middle 40s and maybe even upper 40s as we go through this weekend with some Pacific area with those systems. But generally, we're remaining around average as we go through the 10 to 16 day period. Towards the end of the malls, you can kind of see some colder temperatures showing up as maybe this ridge will start breaking down and bringing finally colder wintry weather to the Pacific Northwest. But that's way far out there, and models are kind of locked in on this ridge remaining for quite a while. Now looking at the New Year's forecast from the National Weather Service of Spokane with this wonderful graphic. Today was mostly cloudy with some morning fog. That was actually yesterday's forecast. New Year's Eve today, lows in the 25 to 30 degrees with some snowfall overnight, some light snow, maybe some rain mixing in later tomorrow, as well as we head into the new year with highs in around the low to upper 30s out east. Here's a graphic from the National Weather Service of Spokane, also talking about the snowfall with 1 to 3 inches possible in the Cascades and Central Panhandle Mountains over tomorrow, and the rest of the area generally less than 1 inch. Slippery travel possible in some areas. Now look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. Generally above average temperatures are going to be favored as we go through next week. It's that ridge of high pressure built in, but there likely be some cooler temperatures as well. Above average can mean maybe 49 degrees versus 46 degrees this time of the year. So really not that big of a deal for the Pacific Northwest. However, California could be getting into the 50s and 60s as well, which is pretty normal for this time of the year. But look at the Arctic air kind of moves out into the eastern U.S., bringing some very frigid temperatures, potential for snowstorms out there. So definitely some wild forecasting down there. Maybe we'll eventually start getting those conditions out west later next month into February, but we are not 100% sure right now. Generally below average precipitation is favored as well during January 6th to the 10th timeframe. Same deal as we go through, even increasing the odds of above average temperatures with that ridge of high pressure building in, the Arctic air continuing out east with the potential for snowstorms, generally below average precipitation as well. Well, anyways, I hope everybody had a wonderful 2024 and that the good outweighed the bad this year. I hope everybody has a safe evening tonight with any fireworks and stuff. Generally, Southern California is really dry right now, so be careful with those fireworks out there. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. I'll likely do a special forecast video tomorrow to enter the new year with a snowfall and potential winter weather as we go through the end of next month into February. I'm going to do a little seasonal forecast for the rest of winter to see when and where we may potentially start getting some colder and wintry weather for the rest of the winter. So that will be fun to go over that tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that video by hitting the subscribe buttons down below this video. I hope everybody this next year is going to treat everybody super well. It's been a pretty tough year for a lot of people, a lot of craziness going on. So I hope that there's some resemblance of normal next year. So anyways, take care. God bless. And I'll talk to everybody in the next video.